Have you ever mistaken a complete stranger for the person you love? There's a funny story about a woman who came out of a theater restroom and playfully kicked her boyfriend in the shin, only to realize it wasn't him at all. Mortified, she fled without even staying for the movie. Today's story is about a French woman who traveled to the United States to find her twin sister who had run away from home to be with an American man. On her way to meet her sister, she had an unsettling encounter. A strange American man wrapped his arm around her waist. She instinctively kicked him squarely in the shin. Furious, she became determined to get her sister out of this depraved country as quickly as possible. When she finally met her sister's boyfriend, she said, "This is terrible. Want to know what happened next? My name is Camille. I have an identical twin sister named Elise. Our faces are perfect mirror images of each other, but our personalities couldn't be more different. From the moment we were born, I screamed at the world while Elise quietly observed it. My mother always said I cried so loudly the entire hospital could hear me, whereas Elise just opened her wide eyes and took everything in. This difference only grew as we got older. In elementary school, I was always the one volunteering to lead presentations, the center of every classroom activity. Where my friends gathered, I was there, the life of the party. Alice, on the other hand, preferred to read quietly in a corner or lose herself in her studies. Our teachers praised Alice's intelligence while worrying about how to manage my boundless energy. "Camille, I wish you were a little more calm, like your sister," was a constant refrain from my mother. But I lived life my own way. In high school, I was busy starring in the drama club and organizing student council events. Alice was in the library, solving complex math problems or conducting science experiments. After graduation, Alice was accepted into the prestigious Sorbonne University with top honors. I, however, felt that real-world experience suited me better than academia. "I can always go to university later," I told my parents. "Right now, I need to experience life." I started working at a fashion boutique in Paris. I loved interacting with people and quickly became a top salesperson. While Elise was pulling all-nighters in the library, I was building my own expertise in the wide world, talking to customers from all walks of life. We grew up on two completely different paths. Elise focused on her studies, meeting everyone's expectations. I lived for social acceptance on my own terms. My parents were immensely proud of Elise's academic achievements, offering me vague praise like, "Well, you found your own way, dear," but that was enough for me. My peaceful life shattered on a Monday morning with an unexpected phone call. "Camille, can you come home?" My father's voice was strained. It was my day off, so I rushed over to my parents' house. When I walked in, they were sitting in the living room, their faces grim. My mother's eyes were red and swollen, and my father was staring down at a piece of paper in his hands. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Elise. She's run away from home." I laughed at first. "Elise? Our perfect, studious Elise? No way." But their expressions were deadly serious. "What are you talking about?" She said she was going to the library to study during the break. My mother sighed heavily. "She's been seeing an American student for months, an exchange student. When he went back to the United States, she followed him." I was stunned. Elise was dating someone, a foreigner, and she followed him to America? I couldn't believe it. Elise was always so methodical and careful, never one to make impulsive decisions. "When did this happen?" My father handed me the piece of paper. It was a letter in Elise's handwriting. "Dearest family, I'm going away for a while to find my own life. Don't worry, I'll be in touch. Love, Elise." It was brief, no explanation, no apology, just a notification that she was gone. I immediately tried calling her cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. "How long has she been gone?" 3 days, my mother said. "We thought she was just busy, but when we checked with the university, we found out she'd taken a leave of absence. Her passport and some important belongings are missing from her room." A surge of anger washed over me. How could she do this without telling us anything? and to follow some man we'd never even met. What kind of man could make Elise do something so reckless? How long were they together? My parents shook their heads. They met at the university about 6 months ago. She never introduced him to us. What's his name? Ethan, I think. It's an American name, hard to remember. My mind was reeling. Elise had been in a secret relationship for 6 months. Even though we walked different paths, I thought we shared the important things. So, we have no idea where she is? I asked. Probably in the United States, my mother said, her voice trembling. That's where her boyfriend went back to. I made a decision right then and there. I'll go find her. I'm going to America and I'm bringing Elise back. My parents were shocked. Camille, you don't even know where in America she is. How will you find her? Don't worry, I said, more confidently than I felt. I'll find her. It's a twin's intuition. In reality, I had no idea if such a thing existed. But I knew I couldn't sit idly by while my sister was potentially in danger. And if I were being honest, a small part of me was jealous that she had embarked on an adventure before I did. I'll go get her. Don't you worry. That night, I booked a flight to New York City. I figured if she was anywhere, it would be there. I spent hours researching online and bought a travel guide. I learned about the 5 boroughs and the city's iconic subway system, but Elise's exact location remained a mystery. The night before my flight, an idea struck me. If I approached her directly, she would get defensive. I needed another way. I picked up my phone and sent a text message. Hey Elise, I'm taking a spontaneous trip to the US. NYC is my next stop. What are the must-see spots? Any recommendations? I tried to sound as casual as possible, as if I had no idea she had run away. After sending it, I checked my phone obsessively until I fell asleep. Midnight passed, and just as I was about to give up hope, a reply came through. You're really coming to New York? If you're in Manhattan, I can show you around. You have to see Central Park and the Brooklyn Bridge. Success. She was in New York, and she had fallen right into my trap. I replied instantly. Really? You're in the US too? What are you doing there? I land tomorrow. Where should we meet? Alice's reply seemed a bit hesitant. Oh, I took a break from my studies to spend some time here. How about a cafe in Greenwich Village? Let me know when you arrive. I smirked. Got you, Elise. I told my parents I had found her, and the next day I boarded a plane to New York. During the long flight, I mapped out my plan. First, I needed to understand the situation. I had to meet this American man, Ethan. I had to determine if he was a good person who genuinely cared for Elise or some predator taking advantage of my naive sister. When I landed at JFK Airport, I was a mix of nerves and excitement. A country I'd never visited, a culture completely foreign to me, and most importantly, a sister I was about to see for the first time in what felt like years. I had to find out why Elise had made this choice. Just wait, Elise. I'm coming for you. After checking into my hotel, I contacted Elise. We agreed to meet at the cafe, and I opened a map app to find my way. Manhattan was bigger and more chaotic than I had ever imagined. The towering skyscrapers, so different from Paris, the unfamiliar signs, and the symphony of English accents overwhelmed me. The streets were teeming with people, all moving with a sense of urgent purpose. I took the subway to the village. On the train, I felt the eyes of New Yorkers on me. My blonde hair and European features seemed to stand out. It was fine. I was used to being the center of attention. As I walked from the subway station toward the cafe, something strange happened. I was on a crowded street when suddenly an arm wrapped around my waist from behind. At first, I thought someone had bumped into me by accident, but the hand stayed firmly on my waist. I whipped around in shock to see an American man smiling at me. He looked to be in his late 20s and was acting as if he knew me. In that instant, fear and anger collided within me. This was clear harassment. "What do you think you're doing?" I yelled in French. He obviously didn't understand, but my furious expression must have been universal. Yet, he kept smiling and said something in English, trying to put his arm around my waist again. This was completely unacceptable. On instinct, I shoved him away. As he stumbled, I shoved him harder. "Get your hands off me, you creep!" I shouted in English. He just kept smiling. People around us started to stare. Some even pulled out their phones to record the scene. When the man tried to approach me again, I lost it. I swung my hand back and hit him over the head, and when he staggered, my foot shot out and kicked him hard in the shin. Finally, the man's expression changed. He looked shocked and started shouting something. A crowd was gathering now, and he seemed to be explaining himself to the onlookers. Some of them were giving me strange looks. A woman nearby spoke to me in accented English. "He says he thought you were his girlfriend." "What? No way. I've never seen this man in my life," the woman explained again. "He says he mistook you for someone else. He's apologizing." But I was still furious. I couldn't understand how someone could be so bold as to just grab a strange woman's waist like that. I didn't want to talk to him anymore, so I turned and hurried away, my heart pounding and my hands trembling. I was shaken by the bizarre encounter. I had just arrived in this country only to experience something like this. Taking a deep breath, I continued toward my rendezvous with Ellis. When I arrived at the cafe, Ellis was already sitting at a table. It was my sister, whom I hadn't seen in months, yet she looked surprisingly different. Her face was the same as mine, but her eyes held a new light. She seemed more confident, more at ease. "Camille!" Ellis jumped up and hugged me tightly. "You actually came. I'm so shocked." I forced a smile, still seething from what had just happened. I tried to focus on the joy of seeing her, but I couldn't hold it in. "Elise, this country is awful," I said as soon as I sat down. A man just grabbed my waist on the street. "What is wrong with this place? Is that normal here?" Alice's face clouded with concern. "What happened? Tell me exactly." I recounted the entire incident in detail. Alice thought for a moment, then said, "Camille, that must have been a mistake. America isn't like that. People here are generally very respectful of personal space." "Then why did that man grab me? A total stranger?" Ellie sighed. "He might have genuinely mistaken you for someone else. Maybe it was an honest mistake, but if it made you uncomfortable, I'm truly sorry that happened." A silence fell between us. A thought suddenly occurred to me. "But why are you here? Why did you leave the Sorbonne and come to America without a word? Do you have any idea how worried Mom and Dad are?" Elise's expression darkened. "Camille, I needed to breathe." "What do you mean? All my life, I've been Elise the brilliant, Elise the responsible one, Elise the star student. The expectations from our parents, from my professors, even from myself, they were all pushing me to achieve something great. But I just felt suffocated. I was taken aback by her words. I never knew my sister felt this way. And then I met Ethan," she continued. "The American man," I stated. Elise nodded. He saw me for who I was, not Elise the genius, but just Elise. And he showed me the potential I had hidden inside myself. He helped me discover what I really wanted. "So you followed him to America?" "No, Camille, I came here to find myself. Ethan was just the catalyst. Here, I'm learning a new culture, experiencing a different way of life, and most importantly, I'm living for myself, free from everyone's expectations." Her words stung. I had no idea my sister was carrying such a heavy burden. In truth, I had always been a little envious of her. She was smart, diligent, and the pride of our parents. I, on the other hand, was often seen as the troublemaker. "Please tell Mom and Dad I'm sorry for leaving so suddenly," she said. "But this is time I need for myself. I'll come back one day. But for now, I'm finding my own path." I took her hand. "Elise." I had no idea. "It's okay, Camille. You've always walked your own path. I've always envied you for that. Now I'm trying to find my own." My heart was in turmoil. On one hand, I felt a duty to bring her home. On the other, I understood what she was saying. The feeling of losing yourself to others' expectations, I had never felt that, because my parents had never expected much from me. Perhaps that's why I'd always felt free. So what's this American man like? Is he really good for you? Ellie smiled. Ethan is a wonderful person. He works for a tech company. He's responsible, reliable, and so kind. You'll meet him tonight. The three of us are having dinner. In that moment, I realized my sister looked genuinely happy. She was more vibrant and confident than the Elise I had ever known. Her time in America seemed to be doing her good. Elise, I admitted, I came here to take you back. Mom and Dad are so worried. A flicker of alarm crossed her face. I'm not ready to go back, Camille. Not yet. I know. I understand now. I sighed deeply. I'm glad you look so happy. I'll explain it to Mom and Dad. Elise's face flooded with relief. Thank you so much, Camille. As I left the cafe, I wondered if forcing her to return was really the right thing to do. She was clearly finding her own way here. Maybe I should stay in New York for a few more days to understand her life better. And I still needed to be sure that this Ethan was truly the right man for her. I could only make my final judgment after meeting him at dinner. On the way to the restaurant with Elise, my mind was a jumble of emotions. I was nervous about meeting her boyfriend. I had to be sure he wasn't taking advantage of my naive sister. As we walked, I asked her about him. Alice's face lit up. You love him, Camille. He's so kind and thoughtful. He helped me so much when I was first getting used to the city. When we arrived at the restaurant, Alice spotted him at a table. Oh, there he is. I looked over and my body went rigid with shock. It was him, the creep who had grabbed my waist that afternoon, the man I had kicked. He saw us and with a broad smile started walking over. I immediately pointed a finger at him and shouted, You're the one who grabbed me today, aren't you? Elise looked at me, utterly bewildered. What? Camille? What are you talking about? The man, Ethan, looked just as shocked. As I got a closer look, I saw him and Elise were holding hands. This was Ethan. He looked back and forth between me and Elise, his face a mask of confusion. Elise finally put the pieces together. Ethan, this is my twin sister Camille. I told you she was visiting from France. Ethan's face went pale. He said something quickly in English, and Elise burst out laughing. She explained everything and Ethan bowed his head slightly, speaking to me in clear English. I am so sorry. I knew Elise had a sister, but I had no idea you were identical twins. That was a terrible mistake. I was still stunned, but the situation was becoming clear. It was all a giant misunderstanding. Ethan had thought I was Elise and approached me playfully. So, you were the one who kicked me? His sincere apology began to melt my anger. I'm sorry, I said. I think I might have kicked you a little too hard. Ellie smiled and stepped between us. Alright, now that the misunderstanding is cleared up, let's sit down and eat. I'm starving. The atmosphere at the table was awkward at first. Ethan still looked embarrassed, and I felt a little uncomfortable. Elise broke the silence. Camille, Ethan is a software developer at a tech firm. He was an exchange student at the Sorbonne, which is where we met. Ethan nodded. I spent 6 months in Paris. We started as friends, but I was the one who confessed my feelings first. Elise looked proud. I have you to thank for that, Camille. You always said, if you want something, you have to speak up. Ethan smiled. Elise is the most brilliant and courageous person I've ever met. She speaks perfect French, and now she's picking up on all the New York nuances so quickly. As our food arrived, Ethan naturally began to explain the different dishes to me. He was more kind and educated than I had imagined. I could see the genuine love in his eyes when he looked at Elise. Over dinner, I got to know Ethan better. He was from Chicago and had come to New York for university. He told me he'd always been fascinated by French culture, which led him to the exchange program where he met Elise. Listening to his story, I understood why my sister had fallen for him. He was intelligent but humble, with a deep respect for other cultures. To be honest, Ethan confessed, when Alice told me she was coming to New York, I was shocked. Her life in France seemed so perfect, a great university, top grades, a brilliant future. But I wasn't happy, Alice said quietly. I was suffocating under all those expectations. Ethan showed me there were other possibilities for my life besides academics. I reached across the table and squeezed my sister's hand. Now I understand why you made this choice. After dinner, we took a walk through the city streets. Ethan took us to the banks of the East River. The Manhattan skyline at night was breathtaking, the lights of the skyscrapers glittering on the water like fallen stars. What does Elise do here? I asked Ethan. She's teaching French at a private school, he answered, and in her spare time, she's exploring writing. She wants to become a translator or an interpreter in the future. Elise blushed. I'm still a beginner, but I'm enjoying it. It feels like I'm finally doing something I truly want to do. In that moment, I saw true happiness on my sister's face. Back home, she had always seemed so serious, so burdened. Now, she looked light and free. On the way back to my hotel, Ethan pulled me aside for a moment. As Alice's sister, what do you think of me? I answered honestly. At first I was suspicious. I couldn't understand how my sensible sister could drop everything for a man she just met. But now, I think you're good for her. Ethan breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you. I truly love Elise. I just want her to find her own dreams and be happy. Will you send her back to France someday? I asked. Of course, he said, without hesitation. Her family is there. I'm planning to look for work opportunities in France myself in a year or two. I love France too. Hearing that put my mind at ease. They wouldn't stay in America forever. One day, our parents would see Elise again. When we reached my hotel, Ethan apologized one last time for the incident that afternoon. I smiled and replied, "It's okay, I understand now. And New York seems a lot more interesting than I initially thought." Elise gave me a tight hug. "Thank you for understanding, Camille." Back in my room, I replayed the day's events. That morning, I had been determined to drag my sister home. Now, I felt I should respect her decision. Elise was finding her own life here, and Ethan was genuinely supporting her. I still worried about how I would explain this to my parents, but one thing was certain. My sister was happy, and that was what mattered most. 5 years later, I stepped off the plane at JFK again. This time, I wasn't there to rescue my sister, but to celebrate her wedding. Alice and Ethan had decided to build their life in New York. Ethan was now a project lead at his tech company, and Alice was a successful freelance interpreter for international firms. As I walked into the arrivals hall, Alice was waiting for me, her smile as bright as the city lights. "Camille, you finally made it." She ran up and threw her arms around me. I hugged her back tightly. "Congratulations, Elise. You look so happy." On the drive to their apartment, Alice chattered excitedly about the wedding preparations. It was going to be a special ceremony, blending French and American traditions. Our parents were arriving next week. When we got to their place, Ethan greeted us warmly. He looked more mature, but the loving way he looked at Elise hadn't changed. During dinner, they talked about their future plans. After the wedding, they wanted to buy a small house just outside the city. They planned to build their careers in New York for a few more years before considering a move back to Europe. While helping with the wedding, I met Ethan's best man, Leo. He was Ethan's friend from university and now owned his own independent fashion label in Brooklyn. From our first meeting, I was struck by his impeccable style and easygoing charm. Leo was fascinated by French fashion, and with my background, we had plenty to talk about. "There's something so special about Parisian fashion," Leo said one afternoon. "I want to blend that sensibility with New York street style, but it's not easy." His passion was infectious, and I found myself giving him advice. "You should explore the small boutiques in Le Marais. They have a unique feel you can't find in the big brands." From that day on, Leo started showing up more often at the wedding prep locations. At first, I thought he was just helping Ethan, but soon I felt his attention was on me. One day he asked for my number, and I gave it to him without hesitation. We started texting. Despite the time difference, he would always message me in the morning, Paris time. We started by talking about fashion, but soon we were sharing stories about our lives and dreams. "You don't have any plans to stay in New York longer, do you?" he asked one day. The question made my heart flutter. I had to admit, my conversations with Leo had become the highlight of my day. I loved his passion, his curiosity, and the respectful way he listened to my opinions. The day before the wedding, Leo took me for a walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. Against the backdrop of the glittering city, he confessed his feelings. "Since the day we met, I've been completely captivated by you, Camille. I've never felt this way before." My heart pounded in my chest. I couldn't deny that I felt something special for him too. "I like you too, Leo." But he took my hand. "I have a proposal. I want to launch a French-inspired line for my brand. Would you partner with me? I need your fashion sense and your understanding of French culture." I was stunned by his offer, but at the same time thrilled. A new challenge, a start in a new country, a chance to be with Leo. At the wedding, Alice pulled me aside. "So, is there something going on between you and Leo?" she asked with a knowing smile. I blushed and nodded. "We like each other." Alice shrieked with delight. "Really? This is fate. Are you moving to New York?" "Leo offered me a job with his brand," I told her. "I'm not sure yet, but I want to." After the wedding, Leo drove me to the airport. Before I left, he held my hands tightly. "You'll come back, won't you? I'll wait for you." I smiled. "Yes, I'll be back. I just need to get my affairs in order in Paris. Give me 3 months. On the plane home, I looked out the window and laughed. Life was truly unpredictable. I had come to America to save my sister, and in doing so, I had found a new chapter for myself. 3 months later, I boarded a plane to New York once again. This time not for anyone else but for myself, for love and a new adventure. As I stepped out of the gate at JFK, Leo was standing there, holding a bouquet of flowers. I ran into his arms and thought, "This is it. This is the real beginning."